It doesn't matter how many times you fail. You only have to be right once, and then everybody tells you that you are an overnight success. These are the wise words of the incomparable Mark Cuban. Mark was an overnight success himself. He worked his way through many jobs before painstakingly building his own company, which he sold, and that being a success that he repeated several times over and then joined the billionaire elite. Now Mark spends his time as chairman and CEO of Access TV, as a shark on the hit reality TV show Shark Tank, and is an investor in various businesses. Oh, and of course for fun, he's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. To use his own advice to describe him, Mark works like there's someone working 24 hours a day to take it all away from him. I was able to catch up with him on the set of Shark Tank while he was filming the new season to find out how he does what he does day in and day out. Let's join that session. Okay, so I'm on the Sony lot, backstage of the Shark Tank studio, where I'm with their star attraction here, Mr. Mark Cuban.
All about that.
So Mark, welcome to Success. We're delighted to be able to present some of your brilliant business ideas and strategies to our great audience here at Success.
Thank you, thank you.
So first off, you're not just a hardworking guy starting now. You've always been a hardworking guy. I'd like, just for those that might not know the backstory about how you got yourself on a billionaire path, give us a glimpse of your past. Where did you come from? What did you do starting at a young age that throughout the years made you think, okay, I think I could do something significant here with my life?
Oh my goodness. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I've always been into business. I don't know where it came from or what. My dad did upholstery on cars. My mom was a housewife who sold real estate now and then. Gosh, I remember being, 9, 10, whatever years old, and putting together little deals where I bought and sold baseball cards. I sold garbage bags door to door, bought and sold stamps to make money. And then the more I did, the more I liked it, the better I got. Went to school, actually dropped out of high school, started taking classes at the University of Pittsburgh, transferred from there to Indiana University, started taking advanced classes when I got there when I was 18. And just was always into business. Opened up a bar on campus when I was in between my junior and senior years before I was 21. Got busted, closed the bar, went to Pittsburgh, worked there for a little bit, moved to Dallas with a bunch of buddies, got a job in a software company called Your Business Software, sold PC-based software, got fired, took one of my customers from there, and started a company called Micro Solutions, and that was my first real company. And Micro Solutions was one of the first companies in the country, really, to do local area networks.
Right.
And I never was trained in computers. I just figured that it was brand new to everybody, and if I picked an advanced enough topic or product that no one else would understand it either, so if I taught myself, I would be able to sell it and build a company around it, and that's what happened. We grew to $30 million, give or take, in sales, 80 employees, and then we sold it to H&R Block. I took that money, traded stocks, became part of a hedge fund, sold my interest in the hedge fund, took time off, and then Todd Wagner, a buddy of mine from college, came and said, this internet thing, this is 95, this internet thing looks like it could be big. There's got to be a way we can listen to Indiana University basketball online. I'm like, okay, I know networking. I know, I've written software. Let me see what I can figure out. And so we started a company called AudioNet out of the second bedroom of my house. And it really was one of the very first, if not the first, streaming companies in the country. And we went out and locked up rights to everything we could imagine, from bowling tournaments to basketball to football to hockey, you name it. We wanted to get as much content as we could to be a destination. Kept growing, added video, changed the name to broadcast.com, and went public on July 18th, 1998. And it was the biggest IPO in the history of the stock market.
Yeah.
That's when it dawned on me that I could be a billionaire.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, because we priced at 18 and then went as high as 72 and closed at 62, I think. And based off the number of shares, I think I was worth $1/3 of $1 billion or whatever it was. So if the stock price tripled, I was going to be a billionaire.
Yeah. And
so that's when it first crossed my mind. And and it happened. When we sold to Yahoo, we got
$5.7 billion.
Yeah, now we came in stock, and so there were a lot of people that were part of the deal that just kept their stock, thinking it was going to go higher, and for a while it did. I wasn't going to be greedy. I wanted to keep that B next to my name, and so I hedged my stock, and the rest is history.
So this is a continuum of a lot of different endeavors, and some didn't work and a couple worked. Was there a defining moment when you thought, I really can do something big? Because I'm trying to figure out, what's that trigger point? Was there a defining?
No, it was never a trigger point. People ask me, well, what was the aha moment? What was the trigger point? It was always just a continuous path.
But where did you get the confidence to have 80 employees, then 300 and some odd employees?
I just didn't know any better. It was just, I just didn't know any better. It was just being young and figuring, why couldn't I, just telling myself, why couldn't I do it? Now, was I nervous? Was I afraid? Lots of times. I mean, I remember, because I told you my bar had closed, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, Micro Solutions was the name of the company. We're in business 1 month. We're profitable. 2 months, we're profitable. 3 months. And just counting the months and just being grateful that, we're still going. And I just kept on going and going. And I lived like a student. I was living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment. I didn't have a lot of expenses. And so it was like, okay, what's my downside? So there wasn't like, okay, I got this. And
where do you think that chutzpah came from, though? Was it mom, dad? Was there an influential person that encouraged you, or that you saw as a model? It's like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it.
Not really. My parents always encouraged me, and they always tried to help, but I just didn't know any better. And I always could sell. I guess I always felt like, from the time I was a kid, I always felt confident that I could create value. And if I could convey the value of what we were doing, we were going to be successful. The value of connecting PCs together, the value of customizing software in a complex solution, the value of a global network, the value of multimedia over the internet. And so I always felt confident that as long as I can convey the value and create a positive situation for customers or consumers, that I would do okay. And worst case, I'd fall on my ass and try again and see what happened, knowing I could get a job as a bartender or get back into sales, work for somebody else in sales. I mean, what was the worst thing? I mean, I'm sleeping on the floor. How bad could it be? Yeah.
So sales, the ability to find and then communicate value. I'm trying to figure out, what's the theme in your life that you think you could pinpoint? Okay, when I talked to and interviewed Tony Hsieh, he says, everybody's got a superpower. It's something that they do uniquely that separates them from everybody else.
I guess if I have to point to something, I'm voracious when it comes to learning. I've always, because I've been in technology, my attitude has always been, when a new technology is always going to be introduced. And when it's introduced, there's the people who invented it and everybody else. And if I could learn it faster than everybody else, then I would have an edge. And then part 2 to that is, I think, my real superpower, if you will, is I can look at a situation like here at Shark Tank, and while everybody else is still processing, I know what's going on. And so I can put myself in, the shoes of Success magazine and say, okay, here's how this applies to you in a beat, right? I can watch a deal on Shark Tank and say, okay, here's what's going on in a beat. And I think that allowed me, when I walked into a customer situation, I could say, no matter what type of business it is, I could say, okay, I understand, ask a few questions, get a feel for their business, and know instantaneously how my product or service could make them more profitable and more competitive. And I remember writing for Micro Solutions, that first company, that was the whole presentation. Our goal is to use personal computer technology to make your company more competitive and more profitable. That's all we focus on doing. And that's what I was good at.
Yeah. So what do you do today to continue to challenge yourself? I mean, it's an obvious question, but I want everybody else to hear it.
I really learn. I learn. I never stop learning, because, you've got, your bank accounts are a reflection of what happened before. They're not a reflection of what's happening now.
Right.
And so I'm so competitive, I want to be able to say, okay, that 18-year-old kid, he or she thinks they got it going on and got their stuff together. Well, watch this. I'll compete with you. You're not going to have more energy than me. You're not going to know more about this. You think, somebody my age isn't going to understand. Well, watch this, right? Because I'll put in the time and, put myself in those circumstances and put myself in their shoes and figure it out.
I love that. Your bank account's a reflection of what's happened in the past, not what's happening right now. That's beautiful. So, obviously I'm a firm believer in asking questions. I do it for a living.
Right.
Tell us what questions entrepreneurs need to be asking. I mean, you're on the set of Shark Tank. What questions do you see most often that entrepreneurs haven't asked themselves enough?
I think entrepreneurs have a challenge in being self-aware. They don't ask themselves, how would Mark Cuban kick his ass or her ass? Right? That's what I try to ask myself. If, Darren came along and started a company, what could he possibly do to put me out of business or hurt my business or put me in a bad spot? And, that's part one. Part two is I try not to lie to myself. We try to think, ours is better at this, ours is faster than this. Anything, anytime I'm describing or asking an entrepreneur to describe their product, service, or company, I get nervous when someone says an adjective wherever that ends in or est, because whoever your competition is that you think you're faster, better, cheaper than, they're not thinking, Mark's company wins. Right. They're thinking they have some advantage. And so you have to be very self-aware. I think another thing they do is they think that raising money is an accomplishment. That's not an accomplishment, that's an obligation.
Yeah,
that goes into the liability side of things as much as anything, because now you've got an obligation to somebody else, and as opposed to just doing what you need to do for your company, and sometimes they're at odds. I think they lose track of selling, that you've always got to be selling. I'm the CEO, I don't have to sell. Huge.
You're a chief sales officer.
Yeah. You always, CEOs always have to be selling. But I'd say self-awareness is the biggest challenge. As it applies to younger entrepreneurs, I think kids now in school, coming out of school, we've got incubator and business plan competition inflation. I was third in this business plan, right? Or I won $10,000. Okay, if I got that $10,000, this must be good.
Yeah.
Right. So it gives you a false sense of security. I mean, I do some of that stuff for different schools, and some of the things that we've given money to are some of the worst ideas ever.
Yeah.
I think another issue that particularly young entrepreneurs run into is they think they need a mentor. So asking questions is good, but asking questions and being dependent on the answer is bad. Right? You've got to be able to think and figure things out for yourself.
Right. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I want to get to some fun questions. But one is to deconstruct kind of your business philosophy. As you approach any business deal, if you were to boil it down to 3 core fundamentals that you operate by in life, success, business, life, what would you say are a few of the core philosophies that make up Mark Cuban?
Always be selling. Sales cures all. Always be grinding. You've got to always work, always be learning. And you've got to re-earn your customer's business and reevaluate your own business every day. Every day is a new day, and there's a new, business is a sport.
Yeah.
You walk into a basketball court, it's 5-on-5 or maybe 1-on-1. And then the game's over at some point. The season's over at some point, and you get to get a do-over. That's not the way it works in business. Business is the ultimate competitive sport, because you don't even know who all your competitors are, and you're competing with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, forever. And so you've got to recognize that you've got to grind, and you've got to compete, and you've got to sell, and you've got to reevaluate and re-earn your business every day.
Yeah, that's great stuff, man. So, couple of just off the cuff ones that fly out.
Sure.
If you died tonight, what would you regret not having done? You've done so much.
Not watching my kids grow up.
Yeah.
It's really not anything to do with me anymore. It's just them.
Yeah. Tell me 3 things that you've learned that if you had learned them earlier in life, and maybe this is some wisdom you can pass down to some younger folks that are listening, but if you had learned them earlier in life, you'd be further ahead than you are.
I'd probably say, don't try to be right all the time. I think I've lost business opportunities trying to being right. I could have invested in Uber, and I didn't, because I told them, I said, look, you guys are going to be fighting the taxi cab commissions everywhere, and that's going to be a hell of a battle. I want to invest, but not at your valuation. And then Chris and others came in and said, I don't care, whatever, it's a great idea. And so I kind of limited my vision by being afraid to be wrong. Right? I wanted to be right. And I think that's probably limited me more than anything.
That's great. Anything else? Because that was brilliant. If there's any more in that tank, I'd love to have it. Yeah.
I don't know. What else? Or maybe I probably would have stretched myself at school more. I probably would have taken classes that would have given me more knowledge about biology and math, simply because so much of life now is technically driven and digitally driven. When I was in school, we weren't oriented towards that. And so I'd probably be, I'd take classes that I thought, oh, you know how you're in school and you think, oh, algebra 3 or whatever, that's not going to help me. I probably should have taken some of those classes, because now, I have to read up on those things and try to catch up on them, and it would have given me a better foundation.
Is there anybody out there that inspires you?
I like Warren Buffett. I like Warren, man, because he's at his age, he's still having fun. I've had lunch with him. He's a good dude, man. We're a lot alike in a lot of respects. He's so competitive, and he's sharp, and he's still always learning, and he's 85 years old.
So I look at an amazing character.
Yeah.
What have you not accomplished yet that you want to?
Just family stuff, my oldest daughter's 11, then Alyssa's 8, and Jake is 5, and trying to be a good. I'm competitive in everything, and I want to be a good parent. And so seeing them grow up and accomplish things, and that's my greatest hope and greatest fear.
So that's a great statement to end with the last question, which is, before we let you get back to being Mark Cuban, you've got kids that you mentioned. We want to know what you would tell them to encourage them to strive for their dreams. I'm sure you're having that conversation with them.
Absolutely.
What advice have you reserved for them, let's say, to encourage and motivate them, but also point them in the right direction?
I tell, especially my oldest, my 11-year-old, I say, I want you to learn. I want you to learn about the world. I want you to learn about life, so you're prepared to make your own decisions. I want you to treat people with respect. Because, to this day, I wouldn't ask somebody to do a job that I wouldn't do myself. It's okay to be the person that picks up a piece of paper off the road just because it's the right thing to do. It's a nice thing. It's just have a good, I guess the better way to put it, have a good heart, and treat people with respect, and learn and be excited about life. And then we'll see where it takes you.
Well, Mark, I just want to tell you, we here at Success, we appreciate what you're doing. I asked you at lunch, why you're doing this Shark Tank thing, and you said, well, it's not about deals.
Yeah, I can get better deals elsewhere.
The time you're spending away from your family, it's about encouraging entrepreneurship and knowing that this is helping educate and inspire and empower entrepreneurs. And maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your passion for entrepreneurship and your commitment to it.
I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and if I can encourage people to go out there and dream and create goals and use entrepreneurship to achieve those goals, it's a beautiful thing. And of all the ways that I've tried to help people, whether it's teaching, mentoring, or whatever, Shark Tank's been the best.
Yeah.
It's the only way you can reach tens of millions of people and send the message that the American dream is alive and well, that, look, if you watch with your kids or your kids watch by themselves, they can learn about business and see how it's something they can do.
Yeah.
And so, Shark Tank is that new age lemonade stand. It is that opportunity to send the message that, we live in a country where we have a unique opportunity to create dreams and live up to them.
Yeah.
And accomplish them, and to set goals and achieve them. And that's what makes this country different than pretty much every other. And anytime I can encourage people to do that, it's selfish in some respects. It makes me feel good, but it also makes, hopefully, the world a better place for my kids and their kids and their kids, and, lets me leave. I mean, it's not like Shark Tank's going to be remembered forever. It's not. But if it's just some kids or somebody or anybody just watching says, you know what, I like what Mark's doing there, I want to try to do the same thing. I don't care if they remember